Okay, what? Also, without person. And also for those who are attending event, virtually, since we are also simultaneously broadcasting this afternoon, time. So welcome. So this is first piece ever series of the research and school. Originally organized the this seminar series actually intends to present lectures and discussions on matters concerning the responsible and ethical conduct of research, most especially from supporting so from starting this day, February 14, we intend to make activities. So, honestly, what happened first day of the project? It is also designed for them to get the idea of having conversations and exchange of insights over lunch. So for anyone who will keep on attending this every month, you can actually bring your lunch with you as we go along with the discussion. So to officially begin this seminar, we would like to request Dr. Maria Auxilia Serena, the officer in charge and the Deputy Director for Research and Extension of the National Sciences Research Institute. Also, in my research export seminar entitled Etika Inan and Etika Inan. It's a play of word. Etika is ethics, and then Kainan is lunch. Etika, ethics, and kaalaman is information to be informed, no. So I just like to explain this for the benefit of foreign participants. So you learn some words no, today, Filipino words. With the establishment of the UPDR in 2023, it's very new to the leadership of the then UP Diliman Chancellor Fidel R. Menenzo, the protection of the rights and the promotion of the welfare of human participants are ensured. While research endeavors are implemented with strong scientific rigor and integrity. I commend the UPDR under the leadership of Dr. Maria Corazon Villa, the UPDRAD chair. Hello. Okay, para magising daw tayo. So we'll be and wait. Okay. Sige. Recommend the UPDRAD under the leadership of Dr. Maria Corazon Villa, the chair, and the RAD team for spearheading this seminar series. And very serious. So this is seminars. This endeavor is an essential benefit where all stakeholders can learn, be informed, and be enlightened on the principles and guidelines pertinent to research designs and practices involving human participants. As researchers and scientists, um, when we gather data from human participants, respect and care for the well-being of the research participants, whether they are students, or from the working class, the common indigenous peoples group should be priority. And we even God, our Creator, has created people into His image. When we respect the human participants, research will We are deeply grateful to our C-suite, Dr. Jacinto Blas V. And third, the chair of the UP Manila Research Office, who certain with his expertise and vast experience on research ethics, including the challenges and problems and issues. We maintain knowledge and insights that will direct research culture and creativity towards uplifting human rights and dignity and strengthening academic or scientific. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and interest. And for our section home to the UPD are the host and active partner of the board, dating school. The Institute will continue to support the endeavors of the board, especially with seminar series, Etika Iman and Etika. I'm sure that this will be the start of vibrant and enriching discussions on research ethics. We will have a lot to learn, and reflect. Hindi lang kaunting kaalaman sa maraming kaalaman habang. So sit, enjoy your body, enjoy your lunch, and even share it. Mas masarap. Listen, ask questions, ponder, and return to your search need. Armed with care for people and integrity, and guided by the principles for which UP stands for honor and excellence. So this seminar series, as we started, we learned from John say, engage. Magandang tanghali. Thank you, Dr. Serena, for those kind words. So, at this juncture, please allow us to introduce, which was already partly done also by Doc Oxy, to introduce our guest speaker for today's seminar. Very good looking. Dr. Jacinto Blas Mantaring III, with this discussion on the role of an ethics committee in developing the research culture in a university. So Dr. Mantaring, or fondly known to his colleagues as Doc Jojo, at times Itay, for some in UP Manila REB, is a professor of clinical epidemiology and the chair of the Department of Clinical Epidemiology of the UP College of Medicine. He is also a clinical professor of pediatrics, a practicing neonatologist, and an attending physician of the Philippine General Hospital. He has a Master's of Science degree in epidemiology from the University of the Philippines, Manila. He is, of course, the appointed chair of the University of the Philippines Manila Research Ethics Board, the chair of the Philippine Health Research Ethics Network, or FREN, and the chair of the DOH, or Department of Health Single Joint Research Ethics Board. His great leadership and contributions to pioneering research ethics in UP make him a beacon of excellence for all UPCUs to aspire to emulate. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Jojo Mango.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm for the kind introduction. When I was introduced, I forgot that I'm a doctor. Because puro ethics, chair ethics course. But I'm actually a practicing neonatologist, sometimes for I am a physician. It's supposed to be first and foremost, but just let me just share my screen. Ah, I need to. Ah, okay.
Ikaw, Ron, ilipat mo sa, ilipat mo na, ikaw na maglagay. Lori, ilagay mo na doon.
Everything is good.
Okay na po, sa Zoom.
Everybody is.
Yes.
I'm right now in this. Please. Everything okay. Exchange settings and stop. She's in Johnson as for that. So thank you very much for this, for inviting for this invitation. We always enjoy and sharing our journey. This is the first time actually I'm leading this talk, but I thought that it was important uh, to make people aware that there's a higher calling in research ethics community. And just to put everything in context, this is the line of the talk. I first like to give a short history of research ethics. Say our journey provides context to everything that we're doing. Um, then I'll also talk about the oversight functions of the Manila Research Ethics Board. You know, I'm sure that you will go through the same journey that we are already. I'll give you a little bit about the organizational structure before going to the role of the research ethics team in developing a research culture under an institution. So just to put context, uh, especially to those who are not from here, maybe to those who are to the street or in Facebook, my Facebook board. Yes, yes. Usually is the health science campus of the whole UP system. So it's a public and secular institution of higher learning, offers academic and training programs as well as extension services. So being a research university, being the health science campus of the whole UP system was important for our institution to create mechanisms that ensure the protection of human research rights. UP Manila also uh, houses the Philippine General Hospital, which is the largest university-based public hospital in the country, with patients all over the Philippines. It's very rich environment for medical and clinical research. So the UP Manila Research Ethics Board is actually responsible for the ethics approval of all researches of UP Manila, of the UP Manila research. So when we say all researches, it's all. It's not only of the faculty or the reps, but even the students, even the trainees, the residents, the fellows, the dentists. Uh, the campus has a college of dentistry, college of nursing, college of pharmacy, all that are involved in the health sciences. So let me just shortly give you how we established the UP Manila Web. So this is the timeline for the establishment of the UP Manila Research Ethics Board. In 1979, the Committee on Research, Implementation, and Development was created by the UP College of Medicine in response to the need for ethics review for researches that were at that time sponsored by the China. I'm not very familiar with that board, but it's a China medical board, and they were doing researches in the Philippines. And one of the requirements was to have these researches ethically approved. And there was no ethics committee at that time, zero, 1979. So the UP Constituency created its own ethics committee, created its own SOPs, which are very far from the standards that we follow nowadays. I came across an article with Dr. Ricardo Manalastas, who was the former director of medical translation, medical anyway. But in this article, his recollection, he that was in the 1970s. He had a project that needed to be approved, and he talked to the chair, who at the time was also the chair of the department Aesthetics and Ecology, the same department of terminal justice. And he was very young consultant. And the chair looked at the proposal that you know, people look at the one page summary and say, okay, this is approved. So we are so far from what we're doing right now. Very far from being elections. But anyway, that was how ethics was approved at the time. It was so easy to do research if we had the money. Okay, anyway. Then in the year 2003, parang move forward. No? The Committee of Research, Implementation and Development was organized into the Research Implementation and Development Office, or the RIDO, which still exists now. And in the same year, the National Institutes of Health Ethics Review Committee was established. So the RIDO was tasked to provide ethics approval for the researchers that came from just one college, the UP College of Medicine. And the NIH Ethics Review Committee was in charge of the ethics approval of the National Institute of Health, the National Institute of Health of the Philippines, the one in Maryland. No? So it was very specialized. Um, in 2006, there was a need, kasi this was the hospital naman, no? You understand the value of this. So it's okay if I speak in English once in a while. So in 2006, but I'll try to speak quickly. The Expanded Hospital Research Office, or the AERO, was organized. So this one was in charge naman of the researchers that came from the hospital. So there were three ethics committees at the time in the Philippines. All of them were in Manila. And shortly after that, there was a fourth, which came from the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine. And all these ethics committees were accredited eventually. Forum for Ethics Research Committees in the Asia Pacific. So there were only four ethics committees in the whole of the Philippines. Three of the four were in UP Manila, and yet those three ethics committees were not inclusive. They were specific for NIH, for the UP College of Medicine, and PGH. What about medicine? What about nursing? What about dentistry? So they were not included as part of the scope of the ethics committees of UP Manila at the time. In 2007, the NIH Ethics Review Committee, I think I was in the NIH Ethics Review Committee when it was first organized. And I'm still, well, it doesn't exist yet. The UP Manila has now taken over that function. So in 2007, we're in 2007, the NIH was the first ethics review committee in the whole country that was recognized by PERCA. And eventually, all three ethics committees of UP Manila received international recognition. The fourth, three of the four were from UP Manila, the fourth was already. And in 2010, the Chancellor of UP Manila at the time, Dr. Mantaring decreed that why are there three ethics committees in UP Manila? So he said we should merge into just one unified ethics committee. And that was the UP Manila. In that same year, 2010, the UP Manila Rep received first recognition by FERPA and FRED accreditation. And this was renewed later, 2017, just 2 years ago. We were again renewed. But what did it mean? What is the implication? Again, 2010. Actually, officially 2011 was the Board of Regents approved the creation of the 2011. So from three ethics committees, it became one, but the scope became different. For three ethics committees, that one was for NIH, one was for the UP College, one was for PGH, when it became the UP Manila, the whole of UP Manila became the scope of the UP Manila. So it's 1 plus 1 plus 1 was not equal to 3. It was very difficult. In fact, for the record, I was opposed to that. Also, Edwin was opposed to it. And the first UP Manila Red chair was Dr. Salome Rios, who's now a friend. But when she became the college secretary, she had to give it up. And she asked me nicely if I was willing to take it. And I said yes, and I guess the rest is history. So just to complete the timeline, in 2012, we became registered with the Office of Human Research Protection, or the OHRP, and the Federal Assurance. And these are needed when we does researches that are foreign funded, specifically in the United States. We need the federal wide assurance now. So we have international recognition and accreditation through this federal wide assurance. 2013, we were recognized in 2017, and I failed to put it here in this timeline, but our latest recognition was 2020. Okay, so this is the UP Manila. Okay. So as I said, in 2010, on the orders of Chancellor Ramon Mercado, to facilitate the efficiency within the whole university, the Chancellor saw the need to harmonize three ethics boards into a single UP Manila-wide ethics board. Why is this relevant? Because I know the demand has several ethics colleagues, and I'm sure the way to go is to unify the laws. But that's a continuing sentence. Talk about it. So, as I've said, although it was decreed by Chancellor Arcadi in 2010, it was only approved by the Board of Regents in January of 2010. So, what's the function of the UP Manila? We are supposed to implement the oversight functions of the university when it comes to health research. And this is done through the Vice Chancellor for Research. Our Vice Chancellor is now Dr. Leslie Dalmaci. I'm sure you know her, a scientist and a family, Spanish and China. So she's directly responsible for the research policy implementation of the university. She supervises and coordinates the research unit in these offices and monitors and regulates research. So under her is the director for research management and translation. And under the director for research management, translation, research ethics board. So as I said, the ethics board implements the oversight policy of the global data. How do we do that? We review all researches that come from the company, whether it's done by a student, faculty, uh, resident fellow, etc. Everyone, any research goes through, without exception, goes through the research ethics board. And this is where we have a lot of birthing pains because students' researches, if a student will do a research for the first time, he does not know anything about ethics, then it takes a long time for the research to be approved. I'm sure you will experience that. And it's only, I say recently about 10 years ago, okay, that the students curricula included health research. So when they became trained, then the cycle became much shorter. When the consultants and the faculty became trained, the cycle became much shorter. And our disappointment was when we were new, it was the faculty that was resistant. Because they were applying for researches, like for the researches of their students, and they would get mad if it would take a long time. So they were put upon as the detrimental to research rather than facilitating research. We were preventing research from happening. And our disappointment was It's like to stop telling the student, don't submit to that anymore because you might not graduate if you submit to them because of the length of time. But anyway, that has changed. So it's and then, of course, as you all know, as most of you are members of the ethics committee, it aims to protect the human participants in research and contribute to the integrity of study. So, what we're saying is that the welfare of the participant of the research comes ahead of the benefits of the research, comes ahead of the benefits to the researcher and the benefits to the universe. Parang okay lang if the research, the approval is postponed as long as we know that the research is correct. So it's very um, worthy uh, perspective. Okay. Aside from that, we also provide certification for studies to have undergone ethics review prior to publication. So many times, some people will come to us and say, uh, we need an ethics clearance because we're studying to be published. But they never went to us for ethics approval. But some this kasi our program is not really research. And that's what we need to look at. So if there are programs, for example, their programs, their implementation programs, for example, is a faculty member wants to publish um, their experience in implementing a new curriculum, and it can be published in the journal. But there was no formal research. Then we can issue a certificate that says there are human participants. Although theoretically, only an ethics committee can exempt a study. Sometimes we are forced to issue a certificate that states that this would have been exempted if it was submitted, something like that. And buti na lang, tinatanggap yan ng journals. So there are also studies that are exempt, like meta-analysis and case reports and studies. We always say we never issue exemptions in retrospect. So one exemption should be done prior to the collection. And we wait, I forgot my train of thought na. But we also we provide policy statements that says that this doesn't have to uh, this that didn't have to undergo ethics clearance. But we also say that it's only the ethics committee that can provide an exemption. So the dean cannot exempt a research. The chancellor cannot exempt. It always has to go through some form of review before it can exempt. But anyway, enough. So this is our organizational structure. So we are directly under so we are directly under the director for research management and translation. And we would like, although it doesn't look like this in the organizational diagram or organogram, but the chair, the committee is independent. Actually, although administratively they give us our revenue, pay for the electricity and the water of the room, um, but they never influence our ethics review. So there's a chair that is not my seat. There's a coordinator, this is Lilian. Under her is an assistant coordinator and technical secretary of staff and an administrative secretary of staff. To begin with, the chair is the one responsible for the intellectual activities. And administrative is the coordinator that personally was hired with the town. Okay, then under us is an executive committee that is composed of the chairs and the secretaries of each of the panels. And although it's labeled as panel 1 to 5, we have actually 7 panels because there are 3 panel types. So let me show you that. So panel 1 has 11 members. Panel 1 and 2, that's the general university pack. And our scope includes the faculty, the reps, NIH, graduate students, and all clinical trials. Panels 3 and 4 are just for the Philippine General Hospital. But I was looking at the publication output of UP Manila. Almost half are trainees at the Philippine General Hospital. So that's residents, fellows, and medical workers. Then we have 3 panel types, A, B, and C. They're all undergraduate panels. So panel 5A is for pharmacy, allied medical, infectious nursing fellows. Why? Because they're smaller colleges. So you can merge uh, their output into one panel. But public health is a very large college, and the arts is the second largest college. So there are special undergraduate panels for public health, arts, and science. Um, so we are the biggest research ethics committee in the country. We have 7 panels with the same general function. We have the same SOPs. Everyone follows unified SOPs. We have a central secretariat, but the scope of the review is different. You will note that the review, for example, the clinical trial is very different from the students. And your undergraduate students, most of the time, this can be expedited because we have a UP Manila policy that says that undergraduate students, because of their status, can only do minimal risk study. Some surveys, interviews, and so on. Or maybe simple clinical trials. So that's the composition. So each panel has a chair. So there are 7 panel chairs. And each panel has a member secretary. And the composition of every panel should have non-scientific or non-medical members. They represent the participant, the research participant. They take that perspective when they do their reviews. In fact, most of them just look at the informed consent. Because the informed consent is supposed to be written in a very simple language, grade 6 language. And the non-scientific, non-medical people uh, can understand that. Of course, the scientific or the medical, they look at aside from ethical aspects, they look at technical aspects as well. Especially the technical aspect will have something to do with the ethics. And then we have also non-affiliated members. That means they're not from UP, so that to avoid non-inclusivity, inclusivity. Or anyway, and these are our regular panels. So we have a total before that part. So we have an executive committee. So it's composed of the UPM chair, the coordinator, and assistant coordinator. We're supported by the technical and administrative staff. And then the different chairs of the different panels. So each panel has a chair and a member secretary. They make up the executive committee. And then we have also a serious adverse event committee, very important for medical research, and a protocol review management committee that will see to it that when a study is scheduled to be discussed in the agenda, then that means the submission is complete. Otherwise, it will not be tabled. And the importance of the executive committee is that when we created our uh, standard operating procedures, whenever there's a change, almost every quarter, there could be changes in our estimates. It has to be approved by the executive committee. And then once approved by the executive committee, it goes to the chancellor for final approval. So as I said, we have a unified submission system, a single admin staff, and we have a coordinator with an assistant coordinator who's in charge of all admin functions, municipal. So our total is actually 170. We're a very large committee. It's composed of 109 regular members. We have 37 alternate members. We have a policy where the members of each panel can cross to other panels so that we'll never have problems with quorum. And the alternate members can move from one panel to another, but they are not necessarily meeting unless they are already. And aside from that, we also have independent consultants are members of any panel and not company engaged because of their expertise. And we have members of a serious adverse event committee, specifically clinical trials. Then we have each panel is actually supported by an assistant coordinator and designated panel staff. We have four panel staff who services seven panels. So mabigat yan. And we have staff who serve all. So multi-panel staff for screening of all incoming submissions, document filing, responding to queries. We have administrative staff for processing of funds, appointment requests, budget approval, and then our total staff complements nine, but only one who has a regular university. Eight are the, um, when we do our reviews, we refer to international as well as national guidelines. So this includes the Declaration of Necessity, ICHGCP, CIOMS, the WHO standards, but maybe the most important is our national ethical guidelines. For health research involved with human participants, these are the 2022 national guidelines. Because the parent document is the declaration of the CIOMS. So if you just refer to the national guidelines, it's most relevant and applicable. And of course, we're also guided by the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board requirements for registration and accreditation of ethics universities. We also refer to applicable policies like our Data Privacy Act, etc., and agency issued regulations by the DOH, CHED, and we have very extensive SOPs. I know you probably see it because it's available online. With chapters on structure and composition, condition, approval, and rewriting or writing. We also have guidelines and the UP Manila approach to them. So as I've said, the UP Manila Red is accredited, recognized, and registered. Accredited by the Philippine Research Ethics Board. We have international recognition through the Forum for Ethics Student Committees in the Asia Pacific, and we are registered with the U.S. Department of Human Services through our IHOR number and other choose. This is a note slide. This next slide is a note slide, but it will give you an idea of this, the volume of what we do. Our initial reviews range from 438 in 2019, but went as high as 830 during the time of COVID. Then these are reservations, interviews, continuing reviews, amendments, protocol deviation reports, or non-characterized reports, final report, early study, termination reports, notifications, queries, and complaints, serious adverse bills. So our total workload will be about 10,708. That's for 4 years. Well, about 3,000 documents filed, reviewed, read, approved per year. Uh, and we have a, a information management system through the IRM. But that's not, I'm not including that. As I mentioned, when we started, we were met with a lot of resistance. Marami kaming enemies. Marami kaming kagaya. I'm sure you will experience this. As I said, we were perceived as people that advanced of research rather than advanced. But we address this by providing ethics network support, training, research, and conferences. So we network with the Philippine Health Research Ethics Network and the Metro Manila Health Research and Development Consortium. We network with the DOH Single Joint Research Ethics Board, the PGH Expanded Hospital Research Office, UPNIH, GCT and Research Ethics Training. They're the ones who give the research training that most of you have already attended. The Philippine Health Research Ethics Board and for Ethical Review is Asia Pacific. And aside from these, we are often asked to be resource speakers in the different research classes in the different colleges. But we've already created a critical mass of research ethics faculty. So, naging less and less tayo job mo. So, we are very much involved in capacity building, but that's not an official function of the UP Manila Red. That's more of a function of the UPNH GCP and Research Ethics. That's which is also headed by UP anyway. So the research ethics work by definition has no training function, but we are the resource people for all the other training functions. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the main topic. That was a long introduction. The role of the ethics committee in developing the research culture of the university. So you ask ourselves, especially when we start, what's the role of the research ethics? Is it just limited to doing an ethics review? It goes actually beyond that because we're supposed to be protecting the welfare and the rights of the research participants. In the development of the UP Manila Red, all members, including myself, saw our role as we merely doing reviews when we started. So our schedule was like review, and there was the mass of critical reviewers was very small, so we were always reviewing a lot. No? We were arguing with researchers, answering the chancellor, etc. Over the years, I think we had matured. And in my opinion, the role should be elevated to a position of higher moral ascendance. That would redound not only on the research participant, but the university as well. We are a institution of higher learning, and institutions of higher learning serve as the bastions of knowledge production, where groundbreaking research is conducted to advance human understanding. More importantly, the research should address societal challenges, and should always have the prospect of improving the lives of the beneficiaries that are represented, of course, by the research funds. In other words, the research should have social value, and social value should be well above scientific value. So, what good is a research with scientific value but no social? It might advance procedures, but if it's not going to make the lives of the people better, then, well, the point is social value should evolve. So the Research Ethics Committee, UP Manila, has evolved into a partner of the Office of Research Integrity in creating an environment and responsible research. So you might ask, what's a research integrity office? Kasi UP Manila pa lang merong Office of Research Integrity. It's a 5-year-old office. It started as a committee. So let me introduce to you the concept of the Office of Research Integrity. So research ethics impacts on the rights and welfare of the research participant, but research integrity impacts on the credibility of your research output. It impacts on the validity, acceptability, and eventually the reputation of the institution as well. So research integrity has been defined by Corman as active adherence to the ethics principles and professional standards essential for the responsible conduct of research. And in this definition, you will see that the research participant is not first and foremost. It's actually the research and the institution. Um, Research ethics is actually lower than that. It's the application of moral rules and professional codes of conduct to the collection, analysis, reporting, and publication of information, primarily to protect the rights and the welfare of the research participants. But if the research participants' rights are protected, then the integrity of the research is also enhanced. And this is based on the definition of Oxford University. So it might be important to consider what are the practices that characterizes responsible research conduct. So it's honesty and fairness in proposing, performing, and reporting research, accuracy and fairness in representing contributions to research proposals and reports, proficiency and fairness in the peer review. So this is an ethics committee function. Collegiality in scientific interactions, communications, and sharing of resources, disclosures of conflicts of interest, protection of human subjects in the context, again, a research ethics function, humane care of animals in the conduct of research, and adherence to the mutual responsibilities of mentors and trainees. So, mas mataas, no? Mas ang research integrity or scientific integrity. So I said it's like being a good citizen trying to research. Now, the the three most important uh, research misconduct are fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. That's the extreme of an institution of research integrity. But there's a middle ground called questionable research practices. Sometimes it's sloppy science, taking shortcuts. It includes also like not allocating your budget to what you intended for it to be. So that's all part of it. But the idea is responsible practice. That's the idea. The worst is the big three: falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. And then what's in the middle is questionable. So the role of the research ethics committees in academic institutions have been defined by Henry to include safeguarding the rights and well-being of research participants, having an obligation to society, and contributing to the professional development of researchers. But this has been updated to include upholding research and foster public trust in research outcomes. So having an obligation to society, we all know safeguarding the rights and well-being of researchers by doing the ethics review. But having an obligation to society, because we know that society provides the resources for the conduct of this study, and ultimately the research should benefit society. And again, that's the difference between social value and society. It implies that ethics committees have an obligation to assess the scientific merits of the research proposals, and if the research does not have a potential benefit to society, uh, then it takes a lower status compared to that, which will benefit society. There's disagreement about this, and there's a lot of debate about that. It's something that we should aspire to achieve. Okay. Okay. So we already discussed this. The research ethics committees should safeguard the rights and well-being of the research participant. Means when the research ethics committee does its review, It should see to it that the investigator puts the welfare of the research participant ahead of the potential benefits of the research to society and the research. So never mind your promotion. If you're doing if you're doing it at the expense of the research. So the research ethics committee is concerned with mitigating the likelihood of harm and promoting ethical conduct. And research ethics committee contributes to the professional development of the researchers. The research ethics committee is involved, maybe directly or indirectly, in education and training, and should promote a culture of ethical awareness and responsibility among researchers. So, in addition to the role of safeguarding research participants and fostering public trust, the Research Ethics Committee contributes to professional development. In the research review process, actually we invite people to join the ethics committee. Of course, they should sign the confidentiality agreement, but it's a learning process. Um, I teach a class called C218, which is research ethics, and one of the activities of my class is to observe the research ethics committee. So that, and then they write a reflection paper. So by doing this, the research ethics committee promotes a culture of ethical awareness, ensuring that ethical considerations are integrated into all stages of research. Research ethics committees should foster public trust in the research output by ensuring transparency and accountability through the independent review process, instills confidence in the research community and the general public, and demonstrates commitment to ethical conduct in the country. And lastly, the research ethics committee upholds academic integrity, academic as well as scientific integrity, by upholding the standards of integrity and honesty in the research of academic institutions, evaluate ethical implications of the research proposals, evaluate validity of the research methodologies, reliability of the data collection procedures, and potential impact of the research on individuals and communities, ensure that academic research meets rigorous ethical standards. And this is something that uh, I can truly relate to, because when we were new, we were often told, when it's a student's research, huwag na kayo masyadong strict. Kailangan nila mag-graduate. They have to graduate. So we shouldn't be too strict in doing our research. We maintain that we should put as much rigor in the researches of students, even if they're undergraduate students, as we would put among our faculty members. Because the students are the ones mostly guilty of a lot of research misconduct. Okay, so I'm wrapping up already. I hope that's short. Hopefully, it's almost reaching an hour. But I'd like to show you more the research output of UP Manila. This was taken from the Research Grants Administration Office dashboard. As you can see, 2015, 2016, that was early. Our ethics committee was organized before 2010, 2011. But as soon as we developed a culture of responsible conduct research, we have seen a rise or increase in the research from UP Manila. Um, and I don't know if we can attribute that only to the ethics committee. I think it's the entire environment. But I can say that the Office of Research Integrity is only 5 years old. So parang 2022 lang yun. So it was really where the research ethics committee made people conscious of responsibility. It added credibility to the research environment. It attracted foreign funding. I think that was the number one. It attracted a lot of foreign money for UP Manila. And I'd like to end by saying that in 2019, our ethics committee was awarded the Best Ethics Committee Award in the Forum for Ethics Committees in the Asia Pacific. In 2020, that's during COVID, 2021, 2022, they never gave that award. It's until now we're the best ethics. So to conclude, we should elevate the status of the ethics committee so that we become stewards of ethical conduct and ensure that research endeavors uphold the highest standards of integrity, credibility, and ethical practice to protect the research first, but to the downfalls on the reputation of the institution. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mantaring, for that very informative discussion. There's a lot of other topics actually involved in the discussion of research ethics and discussion of how and it will be envisioned to be tonight, but yeah, we will continue this series of talks in Manuel. But for now,
Everybody comes up because it's nominated counterpart and editing.
well,
So you can believe it. So that is
For now, since obviously Dr. Manmaring is actually one of the best person to discuss a lot of maybe and to ask actually on many of the questions that we maybe currently now have, especially that this is still a very nascent endeavor in UP Diliman. So for now, it would be great to open the floor for an open discussion. Any questions, both from the ones attending in Facebook Live and also, of course, for the audience here. Any questions that we have now that can be addressed? Great. For us to move forward. Any questions? Yes. Very much for this interesting presentation. I was wondering how long is the process for the submission to the hearing?
let's just say for the more complex studies like clinical trials, the median time is 60 days, which is comparable to international. But for students, because they're all low risk, it's much faster than that. So for expedited review, sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. I was afraid it's a big year like but when we started, our record was 1 year. There was one particular student's research took a year. I think 6 revisions for pandemic was approved by the next. It's between harmony between 6 and 60. Yes. Thank you very much. Maybe another question. So, could you give us an example of research projects which are excited entities? And could you explain how you address it? What are the criteria? I'm actually our research ethics committee is once subjected on the health sciences. So we don't have although we do have College of Arts and Sciences. I don't recall any art project that required ethics approval. So another question is, okay, so am I still a faculty member at the School of Architecture? Um, what kind of projects need to be submitted to the board of the project will involve human rights? All science that involve human rights. Of course, different studies and different risk classifications. So in a clinical trial, for example, which is an experimental study, you give an intervention placebo to another group, and of course that intervention, because it's an investigational new drug, we're not aware of all the possible side effects. So it has to be monitored. That's perhaps the most highest risk study. Now, if it's an observational study, then that's low risk than the clinical or experimental study. And of course, the lowest is the one that's retrospective, the one that just requires looking at medical records, perhaps. The risks for that is inadvertent breach of private information. So that the risks have to do with data privacy. So there are many to discuss. There are even studies, but which by definition will not require ethics approval. The ones that are done in the public, For example, it's an observational study. Maybe one of your students will go to a mall and try to describe public displays of affection, holding hands or kissing in public or something. Since it's being done in a public place, as long as there's no participant interaction, that can go without having uh, required ethics opinion. So that can be exempt. Maybe still submit for us to look at it and say,
Good afternoon. I have a question regarding, by the way, for, my name is Thor, so from the Singapore Theologians. So my question is, what are the assumptions in case, let's say, of course, once they are approved, what if they deviate from the approved methodology? How will you know that and what are the assumptions?
well, we have what we call initial review procedures. So that's prior to data collection. Prior to data collection, they have to give us their full protocol, the important consent, what are data collection forms, and pertinent permits may be, so that for data collection has to be done. But after, while the study is ongoing, we have what we call continuing review procedures. And that's when they have to submit protocol deviations, protocol recommendations. Whenever they have an amendment, for example, they want a inclusion criteria, they have to submit it to us. We have to approve the amendment before they can implement it. So sometimes these amendments change the risks of the participants. So, but we are not the police powers. So, um, so you are aiming at most if there's suspicion of research misconduct. What we do is sometimes suspend recruitment because our emphasis is on patient protection. So if there's an area physician, for example, area investigator, we tell them suspend first so that we can assess whether anyone was violated before we give them the position. Yung sanctions, that's not our function. That's the function maybe of the team. Maybe it can go up to the level of the chancellor.
Parang you'll be attaching findings na lang. Last po, do you consider in the future having collaborations with other universities or in case because now it's just like meeting I have previous awards so ayun,
What we committed to do, so there are all the other um, use constituents, if they are really want to set up their ethics committees. But you can be the ethics committee for all the universities. Uh, it's such a large operation. It's hard enough to manage the researchers that you can manage. I'm sure you will have your hands full. You can really manage. Although I think your researchers will be lower risk. Mostly social science. Yes,
yeah.
Hello po, it's Ben. I'm actually an undergraduate student Philippine Studies. I am engaged in social science research. So When I was in a different campus, so I experienced tension, a reluctant community. So my question is, how do the research ethics board ensures intellectual humility without sacrificing?
From this universe. Um, intellectual
I think po yung sa Philippine um, yung Philippine Human Research Ethics, they define intellectual. Wala din po kasing specific definition ng intellectual dun sa dun sa ethics guidelines.
I think kasi what I was making a distinction between social values and value. And the purview of the ethics committee is always protect the research funds. So yeah, there are reports of violations, stop the study, let's make sure that the participant was protected. Whenever there are reports of misconduct, stop it, maybe inquire and make sure that the participant is protected. So that's the scope that we look at. Now we don't look at the manner, the investigator. We will try to collect the data unless there are um, reports of violation. So if some investigator is forcing uh, participants to provide data, and that's very important because the research participant should be empowered. Our national ethics guidelines, there's a chapter on empowering the research participant. Unfortunately, I don't think the researcher shows it to the research participant empowered. That's actually an next step. UP Manila wants to endeavor on activities that will disseminate research participants' rights, especially because we're setting up clinical trials. So anyway, my short answer is that we don't look at the manner unless there is an assumption that all researchers have integrity, they're honest, they're accountable until somebody recommends. In the research integrity principles, there are a lot of erring investigators who are nagsusumbong, may whistleblower, because by looking at an article or by looking at the protocol, there's no way of knowing whether the data was collected in an honest manner. So somebody has to, and if you look at literature, uh, famous famous researchers who have committed fraud, plagiarism, falsification, publication. It required somebody who would say this cannot be true. So it required a whistleblower. So what we don't want to police anyone, but we want to encourage an environment where people support each other. People will have responsible conduct of research, etc. We don't want the environment I have data, I won't share it with you. Something like that. We want one that will be encouraging sharing of data, sharing of resources, and that's the responsible environment, responsible conduct of this environment that we want. So not we don't want to police, we want to promote. I I assisted from again because what it was prison you actually handle animal testing. Because you need animals by part of responsible conduct of research is humane treatment of animals, but that's not the function of the research ethics board. The research ethics board um, involves itself in any research that is human based. For animals, it's the IACU, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. They're like the research ethics committee for animal studies. So the slide that I showed about humane animal, that's research integrity, but not research ethics.
Local good afternoon, graphical from biology. Um, I would like to ask if there are best practices sa UPM right, with regards to um, reviewing protocols that may involve the resolution of tensions. Before po kasi, when we had consultation with local officials, doon po nalaman namin yung mga tribes. So, we required that and say, prior to the overlay that it's and and for the others for the reality. So I think we only press this. Thank you.
Actually, if your research targets the IOPs, then the one who is in charge of protecting their relatives, the National of Indigenous People, and NCI. So that's the number one. Pag dumaan sa kanila, they will give a permit, and that permit should be presented. That is the But if your research is, for example, geography, you want to do a survey in Batanes, and it just so happens, marami so incidental, you're not studying the Ibatans as a group, you're studying the area which just so happens to have religious humor. That does not mean anti-identity, but that will have to undergo ethics. Ethics.
Anyone else in the audience?
Yes.
And maybe also, so just one more thing here, because there are also questions submitted during the pre-registration for the seminar, and maybe in consideration as well that a large portion of the research population in the demand are in social sciences and arts, maybe we can accommodate more. So there's a question here that states, how can the quality and ownership of artistic outputs be effectively measured and identified within ethical frameworks? It's you may have an
I don't know the context, the question, quality and ownership, artistic
um,
output.
actually, sir, that discussion as well, because of course you have fine arts, theater, music here. Your question is, maybe also in relation to this, is the question of, are there already existing guidelines that pertain to the ethical practice in conducting those physical?
It's one that you can station. Right? So, I think the ethics committee is involved in any research involving human rights, even if they're in social science research or observational studies or simple surveys or but artistic research that does not involve human participants, it doesn't really exist. Ano ba yung ano ba ang example ng artistic output?
For example, I think let's say paintings, um, plays or the painting.
Or the painting.
Kasi it's yun din yung question, some of the, let's say, artists in fine arts. So for example, if they ever wanted to, like, if they want to exhibit a work that involves actually human participants in their painting collections, like they,
I think
that's, yeah.
I think that if I remember, It's similar to journalism. Diba? In journalism, an output which is written manuscript, perhaps, which might require that you get consent of the person writing the evidence. Kung may pagkakatakan yan. Pero iba yan, hindi siya research. What's the research? Don't forget, participation in research is voluntary. No one can force you to participate. And the only way that somebody can provide an informed decision is if he is given enough information for him to make that decision.
Lastly, skills to follow up on this, I think another thing is that there are some artists who would refer to practices of indigenous groups, let's say in terms of weaving and art performances. I think that's also the question why the ownership and maybe also the benefits to these communities. So, for example, I think you attributed some of your patterns that you're using to your artworks from these communities, and you learned from that actually.
Because there are what we call the indigenous, what do you call it? The indigenous technology. For example, there are studies on technologies like herbal stuff. Ganyan. In the National Ethical Guidelines, there's a clause of benefit sharing and technology transfer. So, for example, you go to an indigenous population, you find out that there is concoction of herbal drugs that's very effective against people. You need to protect their welfare by making them the beneficiaries of anything commercial that might come out from them. Plus, you have to include them in technology transfer. So teach them maybe how to harvest it better or grow it better so that they can be the direct supplier of anything commercial that might come out to that stand. So baka ganun din yung mga artistic output. They have to be protected. The owners of the technology have to be protected by providing them um, mechanisms for regulation.
I think we have a national commission on culture and arts, so maybe it's their purview with regards to the conduct of research involving indigenous focused culture, dance, performing arts, etc. Iba rin po yata ng regulation for that. NCCA.
Actually, meron pa ang ano yung mga higher perspective.
The while academic was rescinded, and so we have this right respecting law. So if you're going to get, say, microorganisms where or you got um, resources, so you have to go through other permits hanggang DNR po yan. DNB, the Bureau of Biodiversity Management Bureaus. Iba't ibang government agencies will take care of certain research ethics.
Sorry. I think there's a lot of really pertinent topics that can be covered by as we begin in establishing the research ethics practices in review practice at the university. And maybe that's also one thing that we will endeavor in REP, that every month we will actually provide specific topics that will address the concerns of the disciplines. Because obviously for today we can't really cover a lot of those things. But thank you very much again for everyone here who attended last night and in person, and for everyone who stayed online in Facebook and those also delivered their questions. It's very meaningful for us in order for us to also be guided on how we move forward in performing the best we can ethically as well in the art review. And maybe just to close formally this event for the moment, as for this one, we would like to welcome Dr. Maria Corazon, the chair of the
Thank you very much, Gretchen. So
First and foremost, I would also like to express our sincerest appreciation to Dr. Georgia Mantaring for launching with us the first installation of the monthly ethics seminar series. Etika ina, mabasa. Etika ina, etika alam. We are grateful for the support of the UPT administration, led by Vice Chancellor Odulio, Chancellor Bisan, and the current NSRI OIC, Dr. Serena, who's with us today. On behalf of the UPT rep, I would also like to thank everyone who attended and actively participated here at NSRI and by our Facebook page. This monthly seminar series aims to bring experts from various backgrounds and fields to share with us their best ethical practices that are reflective and inclusive of the diversity of research at the UPT. This is a platform where we can listen to one another. I think this is one of the direct answers in intellectual humility. We need to learn how to listen. And we need to also learn from each other and champion research ethics by protecting human research participants' rights and care. So in the discussions here, let's highlight yung sinabi ni Sir na ang kabulugan hindi lang nasa isang tao o isang disiplina. It is much better to collaborate, to discuss openly, and have an inclusive approach. And we also are very grateful to you, Manila. A lot of the work we've been doing in the last year, we've got the ethics members here, we've got 6 technical staff, we've got a coordinator, we've got 1 administrative staff, and then we've got prospective reviewers also along the entire campus. One thing that highlights in our many discussions meetings this year and last year is the willingness of the people to help. We really want to create a real research environment in UP Diliman that is collaborative, inclusive, and humble, such that we are able to learn from the different disciplines. It's not the natural sciences know all, hindi natin alam. Even social sciences, hindi alam. Human kinetics, hindi alam. Lahat. Pero if we work together, so if you've seen the composition of the ethics review committee, we want to have contributions from different fields in order to better understand what our protocol wants to achieve at the end of the project. So Dr. George's presentation on the role of an ethics committee in developing the research culture in the university emphasized the importance of having an independent board to look into research protocols for classification and review. We are enjoining you to shift the perspective on how we view research ethics committees, which was highlighted by Dr. Jojo. The culture of any university is developed when we see research ethics as an integral part of research practice. More than just the objective of securing an ethical clearance, we should adopt an approach to writing protocols that is rooted in being responsible custodians of knowledge. And in fact, gatekeepers. With this era of disinformation, we in the university should be gatekeepers. We should protect, we should be soldiers of the right information in whatever social media or whatever form of knowledge exchange there is. We hope you can join the UPT Red in our endeavor, and hopefully your endeavor, in the next episodes of the monthly ethics seminar series. The next one is on March 7, Thursday, 11:45 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at the NSRI conference room and live via Facebook. Thank you again, NSRI, for allowing us to have this seminars at NSRI. We will be joined by our next guest speaker, Professor Emeritus Dr. Maria Cecilia Bastardo Ponaco. She's from the School of Social Sciences and Philosophy. So again, hindi lang natural sciences. We have CSSP. Kinakantahan na rin namin ng home economics. Kinakantahan na rin namin ng human kinetics. So we want to have a very diverse field of speakers in our monthly seminars. If you have suggestions on who you want to listen to or what field you want to listen to, please approach any of our team and we will try to invite the speakers for you. Details and more information to follow, so stay tuned and follow our UPD Rev Facebook page. Doon namin isusulat natin information. and subscribing to our email alerts for seminars like this. Again, many thanks for your active participation. Thank you, Dr. Montari, and good afternoon to everyone. Okay. We would like to give now our certificate of appreciation to Dr. Jacinto Blas V for exemplifying his expertise and contributing invaluable knowledge as research speaker on the role of an ethics committee in developing the research culture in the university. During the first seminar of the monthly seminar series conducted on the 15th of February here at NSI Conference Room, may we ask Dr. Serena to please provide this. So now close the session. See you next month.
Laura, 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 mention mo yung iba lang. Mention mo yung iba lang.
For our evaluation code, kindly scan the QR code or the QR link that were posted on the Facebook page or commented in our Facebook post for our participants to get the certificate of participation. Thank you.